This is News 12 Law Call.
So what happened behind the doors of justice in the Murdaugh trial in Walterboro, South Carolina? Hi, I'm host Neil Gordon. Tonight, a very special guest, and you are invited to ask anything whatsoever of the clerk of court. The phone number up on the screen, 844-706-1212. And in a minute or so, we're going to show you some interesting video from the trial that took place January, February, and March. And we may even have time for an answer to one of your email questions. Very pleased to welcome into the program Becky Hill, the clerk of court to my right, and Chase Hawk as well. How are both of you?
Doing fine.
Doing fantastic. Well, welcome all the way from Walterboro. And there's Becky. And we wanted to show Becky and Chase a little bit of video from the trial. Glover, if we can play it up full so we can hear from the bailiff.
We're not going to be able to get in. I want y'all to know. We're being up front. We're not going to let anybody. You don't sit in the courtroom anyway. You can cut flips and jump that fence all you want to out here. In there, you can't do that. So you won't get in till they get back from Moselle. Okay. Don't ask me what time that is. They might get out there and have lunch, and it'd be late before they get back. But when they get back, we're going to give out however many seats we think we got. Y'all know the drill. And you're going to go through security, get rid of all of handguns and that crack fight and all that stuff you got.
All right.
All right, what you're seeing there is a seasoned professional, somebody that is absolutely excellent at their job. So often we can get in these formal situations and forget to be a human being, and that's a man that knows his role so well that he can do his role and do it effectively and still joke with the public. And I think that was a testament to the type of professionalism that which this trial was really handled. I was very, very nervous at the start of this thing because I knew that South Carolina was going to be on the world stage. And, I was excited when I heard that Becky Hill was going to be on the show tonight. In fact, I asked my father if I could host instead of him so that I could come on and sing her praises, because I was so very impressed with the way in which the trial was actually handled. Many people don't know this, but it is the clerk of court that makes us lawyers and judges look like we know what we're doing out there. They are the grease in the wheels of justice, and it's too often that the glory is given to the lawyers and the judges. So much of what goes on behind the scenes is handled by people like Becky. And it is really, truly an act of public service to actually have to deal with some of this stuff, as she, learned very shortly into her tenure as a clerk of court in Carlton County.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, we welcome back into the program Becky. Now, what was the name of that bailiff?
That was Smokey.
Smokey.
That was Smokey.
Okay.
He was smoking, wasn't he?
Yeah, he sure was. And full disclosure, the video was shot by my wife Melissa Gordon, and somehow we all met, and we've put a book together, and we'll show you a little later the book cover and all. But that was so interesting out front. Just talk about that. What was it like, and how early did people get there to try to get a seat?
In the beginning, I heard people started getting there about 6 or 6:30, and then by the time a week or two passed, 3 weeks had passed, they were getting there at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. That's pretty early.
Wow, my goodness. Yeah, and that's one of the things that people a lot of times don't know when they're coming to view one of these trials, is that there are rules and protocols that are established by the courts about how you behave, what you can bring into the court, what you must wear when you show up. And so every court is a little bit different. Okay, so it's always good to check with the clerk of court, or check their website for what the rules are for actually showing up and being a spectator. And I know one of them for Carlton County is that they tell you when court starts and that you need to be there at a certain time. So I know the seats for this one were coveted, so I can see why he had that 4 a.m. call.
Yeah, and if you'd like to ask Becky anything really about the trial, the telephone number up on the screen is 844-706-1212. We actually have a photo, Chase, of the crime scene property. Now this
Right.
was taken at Moselle sunset. Okay, so this was not the day. Of course, this was not the evening of the murder, and this was not the day when everyone went out there. But I know that you followed the trial heavily,
Yes.
and a lot kind of turned on the crime scene and such.
Absolutely, and I have been one of the lucky ones to get a sneak peek of this this book, Behind the Doors of Justice. And one of the things that Becky talked about is you know, she went on these press tours with some of the jurors. That the three things that made the biggest impression on them were the Snapchat video where they could place Alex Murdaugh down there at the dog kennels minutes before the murders occurred, then the cell phone data, and then the actual trip to Moselle itself. And Becky, you had your kind of your own experience because you had to go out there with them.
I did.
When you were there and you were in the presence of the jury, you were in the presence of, you know, that scene. Can you talk to the viewers a little bit about sort of how that may have impacted, or may have impacted you, let alone the trial?
Well, it was. I've never been to Moselle, so when I got the chance to go with the jury, what a chance that was for me to go and experience just the feelings, to walk onto this beautiful, magnificent piece of property, and after the tragedy that happened there, just to feel the things that you could feel blowing in the wind almost. It was almost as if Maggie and Paul were speaking from the grave, and the things that we could feel and see, and just the jurors as they were doing their measurements and what they were doing back and forth, and just our eyes whenever we met, it was almost a knowing with things that we could feel.
Wow. We have our first caller, Becky. It is Debbie from the CSRA. Hi, Debbie. How are you tonight?
Hi, Neil. I'm good. How are y'all?
Super. Did
Doing
you? How often did you watch the trial?
Well, I watched every day, and I actually attended either 4 or 5 days in person.
Wow.
Wow. What was that like?
It was very interesting. I wanted to be able to. I knew it was going to be a big part of history, and I wanted to be able to be a part of that history. I did not know going into it really everything that is involved in the whole legal system of watching the jurors and watching their faces and that type of stuff. But I do want to say that, Becky, I really appreciate you and everybody at the courthouse that were all so very nice, so very professional, and made us feel welcome. And the day of the verdict, I will let you know that we were like third and fourth in line, and third, fourth, and fifth, I guess, in line. And we were actually there at 3 a.m.
Wow.
So we were there really early the day of the verdict. And I did have a chance to meet Melissa, and she and I, kind of had met and stuff too. But it was just it was very interesting. It was a huge learning experience for me as well.
Well, thank you so much for your call, Debbie.
Did you have a question, Debbie?
Well, it really wasn't. It really wasn't so much a question as I had just wanted to thank Becky and everybody in Colleton County for taking care of all of us.
Well, very nice. Thank you so much for your call.
You're welcome, Debbie. Thank you.
What was your job like? How did it run the gamut, I guess, of your responsibility? As Debbie mentioned, you took care of her coming to the trial, but what other kinds of tasks did you have?
Oh, boy. Taking care of the judge, taking care of the law clerk, making sure that the jury, when they came, that we had their breakfast and everything that they wanted out for them, making sure that my staff were okay when they came in the morning, because we were still doing regular business in other departments in the courthouse, making sure that the people in line were taken care of. There were many days at the beginning in January and February that it was really cold out there, and I was really worried about that. And gosh, and then making sure that the defendant arrived and that the path was clear for him to go down to the cell that he was in. There was quite a bit of just our list of things involved, and we checked them off as we went along.
So a lot of logistics.
A lot of logistics, yes.
Well, it ran smoothly, and
you.
just like the caller said, that came through in the trial as far as that ease and a very clear notion of what everyone was there to do. They weren't there to do anything but to hear this case and to make sure that justice was done. So.
And Chase will dig into the attorneys and also some of the witnesses when we come back. And as we head to break, the phone number 844-706-1212. Here's a picture of the book that we have for you. If you'd like to see some photos and learn about some content, you can go to behindthedoorsofjustice.com or I'm told that's a QR code. I'm old school, but hover over that, take a picture, and you can get right onto the website. We're going to pay the bills for a few minutes, and we'll be right back.
You're watching News 12 Law Call with host Neil Gordon. Joined by the Hawk Law Group, representing families suffering from serious injuries or wrongful death, with attorney Vic Hawk and veteran trial attorneys from the Hawk Law Group, Reed Sanders, Chase Hawk, Sean Merzlack, and Kip McAllister, plus outstanding young trial lawyers Tiana Baez and Chase Duff, and joined by guest attorneys from all across the CSRA. Your rights, your calls, live. News 12 Law Call.
Welcome back. Of course, the Murdaugh trial gripped the nation for 6 weeks in Walterboro, South Carolina. And the lady who read the guilty verdicts, which was just one part of her job, is here with us, Becky Hill, the clerk of court, alongside Chase Hawk as well. And we have a caller into our program. I believe it is, well, I've
Anthony.
It's Anthony.
Anthony.
That is Anthony. Hi, Anthony. How are you? I'm sorry, Mark. Perhaps Mark Anthony. I don't know. Hi, Mark. Go right ahead. How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'd like to ask Ms. Hill, being the clerk of court there, did she ever get a solid feel from Murdaugh's lawyers about how they coached him in what to say and what not to say? Because he just came across as he said what he wanted to say, how he wanted to say it. And he thought that, I guess his attitude or his expertise of being a lawyer was going to get him off. I mean, the defense just came and just hit a home run from day one. And, I believe the verdict, I personally believe the verdict went the way it was supposed to go. And I believe the correct verdict was made. But I just wonder, being the clerk of court and how she was in there day to day, how she got a feel from his side, how they coached him. Thank y'all very much for the question. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
All right, smart.
Okay, that's a great question, Mark. Thank you. I did get a very good feel front row and center, and from the very first day that I went into the courtroom along with the defendant, he greeted me every morning with, "Good morning, Miss Becky, how are you?" And that continued every day up until the end of the trial. But the defendant, Alec Murdaugh, he was going to do whatever he wanted to do. It didn't matter what his attorneys really wanted to tell him. I think him being an attorney and just knowing what to do in a courtroom showed itself pretty well. I think the defense lawyers, Dick and Jim, I think they tried their best to contain him and keep him within the confines of what needed to be done as far as from their point of view. But he still did what he wanted to do, and that also was making the decision to testify, which the jury did not like that at all.
Yeah, and that's something that I noticed as well, is that there did seem to be some tension between he and the two attorneys and the two attorneys themselves about strategy and who was going to do the closings, how many closings there would be, and presenting a very clear defense where everybody agrees, I think is really important in that situation. But I thought the defense attorneys did an excellent job with the situation they had. There was overwhelming circumstantial evidence, and they had an out-of-control what I felt like was an out of control defendant. But in reading the book, she confirmed a lot in the book about that sort of belief and the tension that Mark saw as well, apparently. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That was a good feel for what he said.
And we have another caller on the line. Megan joins us. Hi, Megan. How are you?
I'm good. How are y'all tonight?
Super. What is your question for Becky?
Miss Becky, I was just wondering if you could elaborate on the juror that was dismissed in the middle of the trial.
Well, let's see. The one that was dismissed toward the end?
Yes, ma'am.
Would this be the one that needed her dozen eggs to take with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Well, a little bit about her is she had posted something on Facebook, and maybe not just her, but actually her ex-husband of more than 10 years, and that she had not heard from in more than 10 years. And he had posted something on Facebook, and I just happened to notice it on a Friday night when I was in bed just perusing Facebook for just a minute. And when I went back to court on Monday, the judge was talking to the lawyers. They had brought something to the judge's attention, and I happened to be in the chambers with them, and I remembered seeing what I saw, and I told Judge Newman about it. So I had one of my staff go back and find it. We had a little trouble finding it, but she's such a great internet sleuth that she found a post that had said what he had said he was sorry for posting something before the weekend, and that kind of like the devil made him do it, sort of, so to speak. And so we found that, we printed it out, took it to the judge, and he talked to the attorneys about it. They did call in the parties involved and maybe the people that were talked to. So they got down to the bottom of it, and it just came to the point that both sides just couldn't take any chances on anything she would have had to say to anybody else that would have gotten out there. So she was dismissed. But before she was let go, the judge asked her what she needed to get from the jury room, and she had a dozen eggs that she needed to take with her.
Hey, as you mentioned in the book, they were $8 a dozen.
They were. They
back
were high.
back then.
They
right?
were. Yes. Yes.
That's like taking a 5 and 3 1s.
Yes.
So you know.
She had to go get her eggs. Yeah, and I think it's important for you all to know that why would a Facebook post about her talking to other people about the case actually impact the case, kick her off the case? And the reason is because the court is very, very careful about what the jury actually considers as evidence and things that actually will sway them in making their decisions. And if they're talking to each other, they're not allowed to talk to each other until it's time to deliberate. They're not allowed to talk to anybody else, get any outside information whatsoever. And the fact that there was a rumor that she was talking and it was connected to social media, that she was talking to other people, any act like that of impropriety, okay, can taint an actual verdict and can give grounds for an appeal. And so in this situation, the clerk and the judge handled the situation exactly how it's supposed to be, and remove this lady, even though there hadn't been any harm. There could be some harm that we would find out later. And so they went ahead and removed her and used one of their alternates. And so I thought it was a good way to deal with a tough set of eggs.
Super. And we got time for one more question.
Absolutely. Sure. After reading your book, I recognized a sort of a kindred spirit in the way in which you approach the law, because almost every chapter begins with a Bible quote. Okay, and you have a reverence, it seems, for the law. What is something that you would hope that the actual public would take from sort of reading the book? What are you hoping are some of the key things that they would actually take from reading?
Well, this was a very serious trial that we were dealing with from a very prominent family here in the South, and that justice was done just like it should have been done, no matter whether you are you come from a family with lots of money, or you have money, or you don't, or you're involved in things that are right. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and that's kind of situation. But to take also the fact that when you are in court and in our justice system, that it's to be honored. It's a place that we want to see things done right and in order, and the judge is in charge of his courtroom. The clerk of court is there to help, and we all work together.
Well said. As we head to break, we'll give you the phone number at 844-706-1212, and we'll put up the book cover as well as we head to break. And if you'd like to take a look at, again, some photos and content, you can go to behindthedoorsofjustice.com is the website, and also there is a QR code if you want to snap a photo to get there a bit quicker. And we will be back with more of your calls. Well, thanks so much to Rebecca Becky H. Hill from the Colleton County Clerk of Court. By the way, they provide complimentary tours and actually can show you the holding cell and where the judge was and all if you're ever in Walterboro. And please, if you want to pre-order the book, the Gordons and the Hills would appreciate you at behindthedoorsofjustice.com. And as always, thanks so much to Chase and the Hawk Law Group for providing this as a community service to everyone each week. And it is just dial all fours, 706, or go online to hawklawgroup.com. And we have Jimmy on the line with a quick question. Go right ahead, Jimmy.
Is why is it that it took so long to catch up with this guy? This guy, Buster died, but he's not the original Buster. The original Buster was his father. And this has been going on for years. Why is it the governing body of attorneys did not catch up with this guy?
Thanks so much, Jimmy. Becky?
It's a very short answer, Jimmy. He's a con man, and he's a master manipulator with charm.
Yeah, and it's a very, first of all, it's a very difficult thing to do to catch somebody in these types of financial crimes to start off with, especially the person that's been in a position of trust and his family. When he says something, people believe it.
We did.
And so not only people that he betrayed the trust of his clients, but also people that are his best friends and his own family, of course. And so this is a person that's willing to say and do anything to preserve himself.
Yeah. Got 90 seconds left? You have
Sure,
another?
yeah. What has the impact? I've been wondering, because the whole purpose of this is to have closure, okay, for the public. And what has this verdict done for Colleton County? Has it brought them back together?
Well, I believe that the majority of people think that justice was done, the jury got it right, and the ending, the closing argument the attorneys did were both fought and said very well. But then the judge said his piece before the sentencing to Alec, and I thought he said it very well. He said, I bet that you love them very much, and that I bet that you see them every day and every night, and Alec agreed. But I think our communities, the Hampton community, I believe, as well as Colleton, there's still a little bit of hesitancy in speaking and saying anything. That's just how much of a hold that the Murdaugh family had on the people in their community. I think it's still hard for people to wrap their heads around the guilty verdict, and that they can talk now, or that they have freedom to do anything in speaking up for anything that they might need to.
Yeah. Well, Becky, thank you so much. Y'all did
Thank
an
you.
absolutely fantastic job and helped put a very sad chapter behind Colleton County.
Thanks so much, Chase, and thank you, Becky. And we should say it probably won't end for a little while, because the civil trial involving the deadly boat accident involving the Murdaughs in some fashion will continue on August the 14th.
August the 14th.
And September 11th, the financial crimes.
That's right.
So love to have you back.
Thank
have
you.
a great week.